Next up, we got how one joke collapsed a popular YouTube podcast. Let's check it out.
On episode 351 of the Impulsive podcast, Bobby Lee made one single joke which completely wrecked the relationship between the three hosts Logan, Mike, and most notably George.
He's not coming back? Is he really mad? Oh, we have beef with a guy? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I didn't do anything wrong.
For context, Logan and Mike created the podcast back in late 2018, and it's safe to say that these two have always had excellent chemistry. Their personalities work well together, they seem to be pretty good friends, and generally speaking, they exhibit a similar level of status. Keeping a permanent third host, on the other hand, has proven much more difficult. The first 150 episodes featured a third host named Spencer, who eventually left the podcast to move to Hawaii, after which the role went to Logan's childhood friend Mac, who'd then also leave after getting into a fight with Mike over their difference in interests. On episode 219 in September 2020, the next and most recent third host was announced as George Janko.
Introducing the...
Wasn't Mike off the podcast for a little bit too, though? I feel like I remember that for some reason. What was he not off the podcast
third
for a little bit
co-host
too?
of Impulsive, my best friend, George Janko.
Who was certainly different to the previous two. George was introduced as a more emotional counterpart to Logan and Mike, as he had a reputation for wearing his heart on his sleeve, while Logan and Mike...
George always annoyed the fuck out of me. Ever since I first heard that nigga annoyed the shit out. I can't lie. I can't fucking lie. If I'm just keeping it straight, him in the podcast, him in the fucking Sideman video, him in the fucking Logan Paul video, that shit annoyed the fuck out of me. That nigga annoyed the shit out of me. I just hated his energy. You know what I mean? There's some people that are just too happy for me. He was normally that person. This nigga annoyed the shit out of me.
Were almost the exact opposite. In addition to this, George was a devout Christian, with discussion about his own spirituality, adding another layer of contrast to what had previously been a non-religious show. Outside of Impulsive, George practiced the art of stand-up comedy, although it'd be through comedy that he'd eventually meet his ruin. One thing was glaringly obvious from George's very first appearance. He simply wasn't on the same level as Logan and Mike. Logan has succeeded with everything from vlogs to Prime, while Mike has overcome his own set of challenges and has proven himself as a fantastic interviewer who meshes well with almost every guest on the show. George, on the other hand, has always felt a little too much like, well, just another guy who Logan met at the gym.
Logan, I met him at a gym.
George never had the chance to refine
that he actually did just meet him at a gym. That's fucking crazy.
His interviewing skills to the same degree as Logan and Mike, which is only accentuated by his seating position to the right of the guest, making it much harder for George to engage in the conversation. The obvious imbalance between George, Logan, Mike, and usually the guest as well, leaves George with a needy personality and an overpowering desire for approval,
Exactly, it's annoying. That's what it is. It's fucking annoying.
over-the-top questions and comments, often producing a clunky viewing experience.
I need to know more about you. Like, how did you figure out that like this entertainment world was your calling?
That's what I was gonna say.
I said it, so.
But I was gonna say.
No, but I said it.
No, it's good. It's good.
I was already funnier than the kids around me, so I was like, I could tell the joke that they're gonna make fun of me, but even better. And I made it about myself. So I was like making fun of myself, like really self-deprecated myself.
Generally speaking, George's attitude wasn't severe enough to upset any of the guests. However, on episode 346 with Shaquille O'Neal, George was slapped in the face with a bit of a reality check.
What?
For the first 11 minutes of the podcast, George didn't say a single word, leading Shaq to confront him about his lack of input.
Hold on, you ain't gonna ask me a question? Oh, damn.
He waits. He likes to wait until he's got the... Bro, listen, man, I read the Bible a lot when they talk about David and Goliath. I've never seen a giant, and so like I'm literally just, I'm a little taken.
You've been sitting over here for 30 minutes. And
that was the worst question.
Fucking kidding me.
That was the worst question.
Jeez.
I'm just sitting.
Are you drunk?
I have one question. Is there any chance I could, for 2 seconds, put these up so I can hear what's going on?
Take them all. You don't have to ask the producer. Just take things off.
Okay.
After making the excuse that he couldn't hear due to his headphones, George sat quietly for another 11 minutes, after which he was scolded again.
What the fuck are you doing here? Ask a question. Jeez. He's your partner?
He's the newest.
You might want to give him his 2-week notice.
Bruh.
Ask the question.
Honestly.
Jeez. You're just sitting here like a bobblehead going.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you because I couldn't hear, but.
And it's safe to say that this put a permanent dent in George's.
Couldn't hear what? What do you need to fucking hear, bro? You can hear their voices through the headphones. That's why you're wearing the fucking headphones.
Confidence. He'd already joked about how difficult it was to be the third host in the past.
It's hard to be the third person on a podcast with two very vocal main hosts.
And after the Shaquille O'Neal episode, it was obvious that George's confidence had fallen off a cliff.
And then recently I've been just getting really nervous that I'm not doing well enough for the podcast anymore.
Only 5 episodes after Shaq roasted George, Bobby Lee would join the show for Impulsive 351, during which one single joke would send the show into turmoil. The episode began with Bobby taking a little jab at George by suggesting that Mike was cooler.
You have everything.
Cool friends.
So
You
this,
have cool friends like this guy? What about him? No.
Ha!
Yet
Bruh.
things became a little more contentious
Bobby.
when George took it from fun to borderline aggressive.
Some people just don't like sucking dick. Now turn around and know the wisdom I give you.
Whoa.
Before displaying more arrogance just a few minutes later.
How about you?
First of all, what's my name?
Sensing George's clear insecurity, Bobby began to roast George whenever he got the opportunity.
You have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Is that your girlfriend? Without fame, you wouldn't get that.
Although the ultimate roast would come after George went on a 2.5 minute
I didn't watch this whole pod. I saw like one TikTok from this shit. I did not know this nigga Bobby was just cooking him the whole time. That's
monologue
fucked.
about the
That's
struggles he
fucking
faced
funny.
in his life.
And I don't mean this in a cocky way, but like, dude, this put me on a very strong map. And it made a lot of my avenues blow up. So I'm
It's
very
like that's-
blessed, but I didn't know I was gonna be here. So
It's
for
like
me-
that's. You done? It was just a long monologue.
He was just waiting.
And let me just say something. I loved what you were saying. It was just very long. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
usually
yeah,
8.
yeah.
That's usually.
But you know, I got what you're saying, and you really inspired me, George.
Bruh.
Can I say something?
First of all, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Do not
Okay,
touch
my
me.
bad, my bad. Yeah, we just need writers to edit that down. Like if we had a staff of writers, they'd be like, "Yeah, we'll cut that." But
I'm sorry.
essentially, it was a really good
Dude.
monologue.
Usually when I do my comedy, I don't have writers in the room. I actually write my own stuff.
Okay, I can tell.
I
But
love
Shit. Just straight, bro. You can't fuck with a real comedian here, George. You're not a real comedian.
maybe you should get a writer. But my point is,
Oh,
For the rest of the
fuck.
podcast, George went into his own little world, except for when Bobby got his attention just so he could roast him again.
all right, George.
So sad.
What I'm saying is that
better
when
when
you
I
were
was
talking, we were here for that 30 minutes.
Eventually leading George to walk off the podcast, get in an Uber, and leave without saying goodbye. The episode received comments such as, "It's impossible to call yourself a comedian if you can't handle
Facts.
being slaughtered by other comedians."
Thanks, bro. Saying how funny he is all these motherfucking times. You can't take a few fucking jabs. That's
Especially the
crazy.
Captain Bob himself. George tells everyone he's going to be the best comedian alive, but he can't take a joke from the legendary Bobby Lee. It's like a badge of honor. How does he think most comedians communicate with each other? I've always
Exactly.
thought
Has he never watched a comedian podcast? Does he not realize he's not on a comedian podcast, bro? If you watch a comedian podcast, they're just like making fun of each other the whole damn time, bro. It's like all they do.
George thinks he's funnier than he really
Go watch Flagrant. Go watch a couple episodes of Flagrant, then you might understand there, George.
is. And when people roast him, he gets super butthurt like this generation. Things became worse for George after this video by Jamari gained well over 1 million views, leading George to address the criticism in the following episode of Impulsive by arrogantly stating that he enjoyed all the hatred.
I love that people were just commenting and getting so steamed. It made me realize, like, oh, I really don't care. I want it. I want to be in their head.
Cap.
Like, I like it.
Love how George is trying to act like he's not heard
Yeah,
about
facts.
this when he had to
Cap.
leave the pod because Bobby Lee, out of all people, almost made him cry. Dude is a clown. A week after George responded, Logan appeared on Bobby Lee's podcast Tiger Belly, where Bobby took a moment to talk about George's behavior.
What he did was unprofessional.
Yeah.
I was a guest.
Yeah.
He walked out on a guest.
Yeah.
If this guy right here walked out on a guest, he would be reprimanded.
Before roasting him yet again.
If you had walked out, right, it would have been like, oh, it's over. But him walking out was just kind of like, let's keep going.
Bobby and Logan then decided that they should
Damn.
get George on a call,
Can you give me his number?
You want to settle this right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna call him right now.
leading Bobby and George to fix their relationship.
I want to apologize for my behavior on your podcast.
Bobby Lee, you shut your mouth. I'm apologizing to you. I left you. You were our guest.
I want to pull.
You see, I didn't even like his apology, bro. Roast him again, Bobby.
back
Roast this
my
motherfucker
apology
again.
Because I too, because I literally did not feel sorry. I pulled out of the apology. I don't feel sorry, but I will accept yours, right? And hopefully you know, when I come back to your podcast, we can make it right.
However, it was obvious that the whole thing had caused a serious fracture between George and Logan, becoming most obvious when they get into an almost hour-long argument, only 5 episodes after the Bobby Lee podcast.
I know people that hate me, that treat me better about my faith than you, and you're my best friend. One that really hurt me is you told me I need a therapist because I believe in Jesus. That one hurt me.
No, I didn't. I said you need a therapist because Jesus isn't quite doing it for you,
No, you
which
didn't.
is
No, you
which is
didn't.
true.
No, you didn't.
I said,
I don't want to stand down. No, you didn't. What do I need a therapist for then?
Jesus isn't doing it for you, and
For
I
what
believe
do I need
you're.
a therapist for?
I don't believe you're as emotionally mature as you could be.
I'm not emotionally intelligent. Could you pick a time and frame any day of our
Sure.
life?
Here's one. 3
Bobby
weeks
Lee
ago, when you were sitting in
podcast.
that chair, you stormed off this exact podcast because you're upset about something a comedian said.
Logan did apologize in their very next episode together.
My attitude towards you on that episode and my belittlement of your beliefs was not appropriate at all.
However, George seemed to realize that his days on Impulsive were numbered, as he'd create his own podcast before clickbaiting the first episode with the title, Why George Janko is Not on Impulsive, implying that he'd left the group. George used the video to explain that this hadn't really happened.
Obviously, I'm still on Impulsive, guys. For any of you guys that are like, oh, their beef situation, and now he's starting his own like lane.
Even going
Nah, because now you just go talk about his Jesus shit over there and not bring it over to the good podcast.
so far as to say their relationship was as good as ever.
Anytime he started talking about God on Impulsive when they had a good guest on, which was every single fucking episode, I always skipped it. I skipped like a good like 20-minute segment because he was sitting there like talking about asking questions about Jesus. Like, nigga, that is not what I clicked on this video for.
Me, Logan, and Mike are in a perfect place.
Yet it was obvious that this clickbait video had annoyed Logan.
I'm just doing this for a couple weeks so then I could leave and clickbait that why I left Impulsive. You know?
That's good. It's a good strategy.
Ah.
It's been done. It's been done many times, and it works.
By who? Oh,
Well, you can make a real living for yourself, you know? We've seen the model.
Resulting in more and more uncomfortable moments on the podcast.
You don't give a shit about this show anymore, let's be honest. It's like bands that hate each other that have to get on stage every night and play for the audience. Like, yo, let's do our hit song. We don't like it. We have to sit
That's
here
not
and
true.
pretend
That's
to
not
be
true. I
friends.
like Mike. George,
Well, he's about to
You
review.
don't say. He's about to.
Only 3 episodes after comparing themselves to a band forced to play together, George disappeared from the show without warning, leading fans to speculate on whether or not he'd been booted. Mike refused to elaborate on the situation when asked by Aiden Ross.
Why is Georgie not on Impulsive anymore? Is that like you don't answer that?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
Although only 1 month later on an
NDA?
episode
Logan got Mike under that motherfucking NDA? Is that what I'm hearing? That's probably why.
with Jeff FM with Mike and Tanner Mojo, Tanner accidentally said this.
We are the new Impulsive. I'm sorry.
we are. It's fine.
Y'all are having like a rebrand, like George is leaving. Like, this is it.
At around the same point in time, George unfollowed both Logan and Mike on Instagram, which was followed by Impulsive changing their profile picture from this to this, as well as their banner from this to this. All of this had happened silently with no input from the hosts. However, on the 26th of April 2023, George would post to Twitter, "I wasn't going to talk, but now I am," implying that some pretty heavy stuff had gone down behind the scenes.
Yeah, nothing
Replies on
happened.
the post encouraged George to keep the drama private, yet on the 31st of May, approximately 1 month later, another tweet was made stating, "To the Impulsive fans, I'm so sorry I can't speak about things, not my choice. I do love you guys, and for those of you sending me the clip of them talking shit, it's all love. I've already moved on from that toxic environment," confirming that he was no longer on the podcast. The post received replies slamming George such as, "Mate, you sat there not speaking for 90% of the time. What are we missing? Your silence?" To which
I mean, he sat there not speaking for 90% of the time, and then when he did speak, it was some shit that nobody wanted to fucking hear. So, I mean...
he'd respond by stating, "You think I wanted to be quiet, ha ha
Is
ha."
there-
Yet this
is
kind of
much
statement is
gone?
representative of
Is
why
much
he's
being
unsuitable
missed?
for the podcast. He cares way too much about how other people view him. If you're the type of person who gets defensive and feels like you always have to be in the right, you're probably better suited to a Facebook comment section and not a career on YouTube. Despite this, George has seen some success with the George Janko show, yet Logan hasn't been able to resist roasting George's low view count.
I love this outlet, and it exists because people watch. And without people watching, I just have a show like.
Since then, George has stated that he
That's
simply
fucked
wants
up.
to distance himself from
That's
Mike and
fucked up.
Logan.
I'm at a point right now where I want distance from both of them. I don't want anything to do with it, and I just move on.
Which seems to be the best possible outcome for everybody involved.
Bruh. Damn. Logan and them just be fucking sending shots over, and they got this nigga George under NDA, so he can't talk about nothing, I bet. I guarantee you got an NDA he signed. He can't talk about nothing. They're just sitting here sending shots on his ass. Damn.